most people, commentators are just faces and voices on the screen. But of course, there's a process. There's a life going on behind the scenes. Yeah, all super interesting stuff. So I guess to kind of close off, I know there's a lot of people listening that might be thinking about becoming a commentator in competitive gaming and esports. And of course, we have an expert here. Do you have kind of a quick list of do's and don'ts of commentary that you kind of see some of the newer commentators might be, problems they might be running into, or something that they could be focusing on more? I don't know if this is a question that you need some time to think. I just kind of imposed it on you, but maybe just some that come off the top of your head. Any, just some do's and don'ts.
I've definitely been asked this a handful of times. I think it's narrowed down to quite a few answers. I think there is like a priority towards like my answers, but I'll just give it out one after another.
Sure,
and then I'll harp it on in home with like the main one I think is really important. For one, I think it's really important to find your voice, in a sense that it's okay to watch and listen to how other people commentate, but make sure to kind of take the points in where it's like it could actually apply towards the way you would want to commentate, right? I think there was a big moment on social media where everybody was talking about like, oh, this is like the bootleg Yipes, or this is like a fake Sajam or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's fine that it happens for some of the commentators, but like eventually try to find your own groove, right? Because everybody wants, like the people that listen in want to listen in because of what you have to deliver. Like if they wanted to listen to Yipes, they would have listened to Yipes.
Yeah.
If they wanted to listen to someone else, they would, right? I think it's really important to really just find your own voice. Number two, I think this is something that I feel like is a hill I'm willing to die on. Play the game at a competent level. Play the game to the point where you could understand the nuances of the replays you are watching. And if you can't understand them, go into the lab and figure them out yourself. You have an obligation to do this as a commentator. As a paid professional commentator, you have an obligation to make sure that everything is highlighted in the way that respects the players and the professional integrity of those players and the competitive integrity as well. I think that feels like not too much to ask, but it's also, I've gotten a lot of pushback on it. They're like, well, you don't play the game. And I'm like, I don't stream the game, but I definitely play the game.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You don't have to stream it. You don't have to prove it. Just play the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Very
Just
important.
At least a certain amount of time. I think it's really, really important.
In relation to that, recently I did see Jammers from UK. He got into like a top 8 at his monthly.
Oh yeah, no, Jammers is very good at
so
at Street
he's
Fighter,
definitely the living proof, like, the example of play the game on a competent level amongst the top players.
Yeah.
So that not just to prove that you're doing the things right, just that it is for your self-confidence as well as the knowledge and information that you have to use for your career. So,
yeah, definitely. It's interesting because this was kind of there's a Core A video I did about commentary, and is something that I notice in the fighting game community. It's something that's more prevalent in the fighting game community, right? Commentators that having to play the game at a certain level to talk about it. Whereas like I think in other esports that might be maybe not as much of a requirement. People can just watch the tapes and commentate as long as they know the rules of the game. And of course, there's also different rules for analyst versus play-by-play and stuff like that. But definitely something that I think in the fighting game community is, and I think there's obviously there are reasons for that, because you need people who can know what's hype and what's not. If you don't understand the game, then how can you even get hype if you don't know what's going on, right?
Yeah, I don't want people to get into the misconception of you don't have to be the top player to be a commentator, right? But just to play in a competent level to understand that what's going on, and actually taking the effort to labbing is also kind of important. Like, sure, you can, like, fighting games, like, unlike what you described with other esports games, is like you can tell by the taste mostly. But it's such a frame data centric game that you do have to kind of
I mean the difficulty of some of the things that happen in fighting games is part of the allure of fighting games, right? So like if you look at Moment 37, I mean, if you've ever tried to parry a super in Third Strike,
in real time,
yeah, just
Any
like
super.
any
Yeah. Any
super,
super,
just like
yeah.
even if you're just trying to parry stuff. Like I remember the first time you learn to parry the fireball. That's your first kind of thing to parry, and then there's the EX fireball, and then like there's a timing to the EX fireball, and then you're like, oh. Now here's a super, like, what the hell? Like, how do I? And then, like, I remember the first time, like, being able to parry, like, a Ryu, like, a Shinku Hadouken, like, for the first time. And that's a super, gratifying feeling. But then, like, that's the easy super, because that's, like, a consistent timing to do. There's, like, and then when you're doing, like, Dudley and, like, but all the third strike players, like, that are, like, at the top of their craft, they're, like, parrying everything. And to understand that, is how you can understand something like moment 37 or even moment 38, where you like doing an air parry, having the knowledge in that moment to it could have been an EX Tatsu that I had to have multiple parries in my mind, and the wherewithal to punish afterwards. It's that kind of stuff is, I think, what makes it different in fighting games. But but yeah, I don't know. Do you have any more thoughts on do's or don'ts? Were those your
personal question?
Yeah.
I do have one,
Kevin.
before we wrap it up. Do you still have, say, your inner child? Does your inner child still have the drive to maybe one day you'll, I don't know, be in the grand